I'm not referring to established books. I'm referring to the documents that only the Pope and Vatican are allowed to see. Why did they not translate it for all? At a point in history, only the Catholic Church was allowed to read the Bible, in addition to royalty. However, the average individual had no clue. They chose to omit much more authentic sources than those included in today's Bibles. Well, no one knew about the Dead Sea Scrolls until the Bedouin boy named Muhammad Dib the Wolf tossed a rock into a cave in 1947 and heard a clay jar shatter. When studied, it was discovered that little to none of the Old Testament part of the Bible had changed from as far back as 350 BC, making all religions that claimed the Catholic Church had corrupted the Old Testament to be a bunch of lying religions. Has Islam taught the Old Testament changed since 200 to 350 BC also? It was as far back as 200 to 350 BC that these Dead Sea Scrolls were studied by the Essenes. If Islam teaches that the Old Testament has been corrupted by the Catholic Church didn't come into existence until about 300 AD, well, the Dead Sea Scrolls prove that they haven't changed. So what does that tell you about Islam? Ironically, the major scholars of Christianity claim that the Dead Sea Scrolls contradict modern Christian beliefs. No, it's now been proven that none of those Old Testament scrolls contradict modern Christian scriptures. The Dead Sea Scrolls, in fact, show that very little to none of the Old Testament has changed. Actually, the concept of the Trinity did not exist until 325 AD. Not so. If you read John 1:1, although the word Trinity isn't used, it sounds very much like the Trinity to us Christians. Also in the New Testament, it is Jesus who has created all things visible and invisible, and by him all things are held together. Well, all things consist. Also in the New Testament, Jesus is the author and finisher of your faith, which to me makes him sound a lot more than just a prophet. Emperor Constantine created this doctrine and killed anyone that denied his teachings, such as Arius. Sounds like he didn't believe the scriptures in the Bible we now have in our possession today. Constantine also ordered all the versions of the Bible scriptures in the Hebrew and Aramaic to be burned. Well, thank the one true God, Constantine didn't know about the Dead Sea Scrolls that helped verify the fact that little to none of those Hebrew scriptures had been changed in over 2,297 years now. If anyone was caught with a copy in their possession, they would be beheaded. Again, good thing Constantine didn't know about the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were kept. As important as the Trinity is to Christians, its origins are traced to that pagan Emperor Constantine. He was a politician. He knew that the church had absolute power. So being the emperor, if he united the church with his doctrine, he would rule the world. If so, it looks like his plan worked for a while. But I'm not basing my Trinitarian beliefs on Constantine. I'm basing them on the Bible, whose New Testament has been verified by manuscripts that go back as far as 200 AD. The Bodmer Fragments, etc., go back to 200 AD, and whose Old Testament can be vouched for by the Dead Sea Scrolls to show that today's Bible versions didn't change. In the Old Testament, there is a scripture that reads, quote, "And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced." By the way, this is God talking. When was God pierced, you might ask? It's a prophecy. For when he'd come in the person of the Son named Emmanuel, which means God with us. But we call this person Jesus now.